Welcome back to the Eric Krown crypto channel, where my raspy lesbian voice is once again rearing its ugly head, or very beautiful head, because it is 2023. However, there are plenty of things to discuss today. Even though Bitcoin has been more or less sideways, we get the nice spike up to the upside from yesterday's video, but no continuation, no closures above range highs or range lows in this case. So what does that mean? What does it all mean for today? And there are actually two major things to be looking at for the next, I guess, I don't know, a few days, something like that. Anyways, other than that, I should let you know that we are hiring a marketer. I put out on Twitter a post detailing kind of what we're essentially looking for. We really want someone who actually has experience. So we do appreciate all of the applications that we've gotten thus far, but please do understand that we want someone with direct experience, someone who actually has done these sort of things before. And other than that, I would once again humbly request that if you do find this content valuable, if you find this content in some way useful, please do consider herping the derp, liking and subscribing, and whatever the hell else YouTube stuff that you might be thinking of. Anyways, let's just jump right into it right now, starting off with this chart over here. This is the chart that I haven't brought up in a while, although it will look very familiar. It is another volatility. Bless you, sir. It's another volatility versus stochastic momentum signature, but this was on the 2-day time frame, giving us a nice upside buys coming into the end of December, early January portion of this last move up. Now, the reason why I'm bringing it up today is because it can give us a nice bias as to what to expect in the sort of near term. So first and foremost, let me explain it for anyone who's not actually been here. It is volatility. We're looking at volatility over here, represented by the BBWP indicator. Anytime that gets down to extreme lows, which are defined as anything 10 percentile or lower, over the last about 5 years, anytime that we've seen that, then the expansion phase on volatility that naturally and mathematically is programmed to happen afterwards has led to an average move of almost 35% over the course of about 17 days. And you can see the first standard deviation right here as well, with particular interest to that 44% region on the top end of it. So why am I bringing it up right now? Well, well. So on the 2-day time frame chart, we are going to see this one close tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time, I do believe it is, depending upon daylight savings and whatnot. But what's interesting about this right now is that we'll effectively see this signal likely end if Bitcoin closes today on spot price action below 23,360. That is to say that if Bitcoin closes below that number, I would say that I'd much more expect a consolidation sideways and down from this current region, maybe even as far down as 21,200, than anything else. Again, if that condition is met. Now, also of interest with this particular setup is this: from that signal given, from that setup given to our current high, we did see a move of about 44.75%. That's well within the that's a little bit above the top side of the first standard deviation measurements that we've seen here. But as you can see, very much relatable to the actual data and statistics. So if that does happen tonight, very likely we're going to see a pullback here first before anything else. We can start to match that up with potential targets. Apologies. I'm actually recovering finally, even though I probably sound like shit. Anyways, yes. So where was I? I don't need to go through the full explanation of this anymore. Obviously, in this case, the stochastic oscillator did get the correct direction yet again, so that percentage will go up. But it's going to take a long time for this one to reset and give the next potential setup. Now, I do want to say, however, that the 5-day time frame that we have been watching a lot more aggressively on this channel is still in action and is still in play. So while the 2-day probably goes into a consolidation, probably trades sideways and down, again, if that condition is met, the 5-day still says that probably into middle of February, something like that, Bitcoin's still more likely to reach the upside than anything else. So I won't go through the full explanation of this. It's just going to get too fucking wordy right there. So let's now talk about the 12-hour time frame. This is the HPDR indicator that we brought up yesterday. Another one of these setups is rearing its beautiful face yet again, where we did see a closure above the top side of the blue historical 50% return range highs, and that coupled with declining volatility, which officially happened on a close over closure basis right here. There we go. That coupled with that has, well, effectively given a setup that has statistically been relevant for this data over here, which I've backtested 50 times. Now, I did make a note of this one to avoid it at all costs in a bull market, and I will talk about the potential failure for this. Again, that would also imply that the 2-day time frame does not close below that pivot at 23,350, I think it was. If it starts to close above, we're extremely likely going to see 24.5, 24.6, and then 25, 25.2. Apologies, it's really not that bad, but maybe I got the old C word there. Anyways, out of 50 times, this particular setup worked out in the downside fashion, 31 out of those 50 times, which gives it a 62% win rate, which is not that high, all things considered. And I did make a note, like I said, that in general upside markets, it's fucking terrible. I mean, it usually just fails, which is actually very, very valuable to know as well, because we can generate targets based off that. That's, spoiler alert, where I'm getting that $25,000 number from, or 25,200 if you want to be super exact. Anyways, what the hell, man? It's like I should be done with coughing at this point. Anyways, so in the case of this setup working out, in which would imply actually downside price action, and we'll talk about validation of what that would look like in a second, we have seen an average return, so an average decrease in price of almost 8%. And in the other case where it fails, meaning that price goes up, we've seen an average return of 9 and almost 0.25%. Again, here's a first standard deviation for the win side, or the downside in this case, versus the upside right here, min max as well, and days taken, which I believe we're kind of at the end of that. So. Let's say that the 2-day time frame does close below that momentum pivot today, and then we do see this chart play out to the downside. You'll know that that's confirmed with a 4-hour closure below the same level that we spoke about yesterday, 22,350. My dyslexia is terrible, by the way. And at that point, very likely looking at about an 8% decrease. From there, statistically speaking, about 21,250. Again, there's a first standard deviation measurement, so 4.5% would also be somewhat relevant. Maybe I'm actually curious where that would be putting us at around. Yeah, about 21.9. So those would be the two major areas of interest for me: 21.9, and then you got 21,250 or so. By the same token, if Bitcoin does not fail the momentum pivot to the upside, to the downside on the 2-day time frame chart, and also closes above the same pivot that we spoke about yesterday at 23, let's just call it 23.3. It's now like 23.350 actually. On even a 4-hour time frame closing basis, at that point, just as useful here again. Very likely going to see, maybe even as much as a 9% plus move to the upside, which would put Bitcoin where? Which put Bitcoin in the $25,000 region, which would also be, by the way, the top side of the light blue cyan daily 80% of historical returns range highs, which would be a natural expansion target right here as well. All right, sweet. So you can kind of see the puzzle pieces come together, but things are, depending upon how the 2-day time frame closes tonight, so far looking like it's leaning to the downside. In this case, also the 12-hour time frame did confirm that second drive of bearish divergence right here. So again, a little bit more, a few more things starting to wade to the downside here. 12-hour time frame, also the jewel, probably going to get a downside signal there relatively soon. The daily time frame is actually still good for for what it's worth, but having a pullback down to 21.9 or 21.250 is certainly not out of the question, and dare I say would probably be an opportunity. Although this is not financial advice, I'm not a financial advisor, but yeah, so far, again, overall, the 5-day still says likely more upside in the long term. Short term could be a pullback depending upon how the 2-day time frame closes tonight. Speaking of that, we should go reference the stochastic momentum, see if there's anything to be aware of over here as well. And let's actually go to spot price action. I think this one's just a little bit better right now. The daily pivot is at 23,500. CME is currently still 22,900. So CME is actually showing a little bit more of a bullish twist on this one. The 12-hour time frame is currently nosediving, however, below 23,650, 680 or so. So again, starting to turn down right there. 6-hour time frame also nosediving below 23,500. About 4-hour time frame is actually up. It's actually up. And even now there's no trend line regression there. But the momentum pivot 22,600, and the hourly is going to be pivoted down right now below 23,450. So the 4 hour time frame is definitely the odd man out, so to speak. And the other time frames generally showing, likely a downside try. So putting the puzzle piece together, at this point, yeah, I do think that as of right now, probably a little bit more likely to trade to the downside. Again, relevant areas of interest would be about 21.9 and then 21.250 to 21.3, let's say. And at that point, I'd be looking for, potential higher low. And of course, the 2 day time frame over here, big momentum pivot. Again, 23, it's actually 23,400. I don't know why I was thinking 23,350, but they're all kind of in the same area anyways. That would say that if Bitcoin closes above that, again, I actually am looking for a big move to the upside based off of these stats over here. So that's the value in understanding these statistics, because it can give you areas of interest for both the upside and the downside upon failure or success. And other than that, I think it's time for me to once again subtly shield the good old Bybit. Bybit's got their promotion going on for 0% on maker fees on derivative contract orders. With the link in the description below, I believe only my link awards that, as it's something that I specifically, argue for this community, because I understand this community is similar to me, and that you're probably more likely a more active trader, meaning that, lower fees probably good for you. Anyways, yeah, good place to be leaving off. As always, take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.